Hello, I'm your host Garrison, and here with me is the lovely Sarah, and we're going to talk about the theory of language.
Hi, how you guys doing?
So I think we should start out with the origins of language. Sarah, do you have any word about what you think about the origins of language?
Well, I mean, obviously it came out in, oral language first, so it was probably like grunts and growls at first, and then came probably more physical. I think with like some like hand movements, like how cavemen seem to. There's like an idea where they like pound their chest if they're angry, or I don't know. I'm sure it's all physical movements and body language first, and then grunts and growls. And then after that, somewhere along the way, in Egyptian times, there became written language. In the Middle East, a lot of it was um, identified that written language started in the Middle East or in Egypt. So it kind of explains where written language came from, but a lot of it was mostly symbols, and no one really knows how to read those symbols. So, and most of those languages are lost, unfortunately, unless you know Sumerian somehow. No. What about you?
Well, it certainly started with body language
Right.
because I forget the exact numbers, but most of our communication is through body language.
Right.
So it makes sense for that to have preceded oral language. But I do agree about it started off with grunts and things like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But, scientists really don't know themselves. They can't really agree on how it started. So it's really just speculation.
Right. Well, it's hard to imagine what it would have been like 200 million years ago, right? Um, I mean, even animals have their own type of language, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. So we can only assume that certain things mean. I mean, for God's sake, there's like a translator for cats now. You can tell what your cat's thinking. So I don't know. We've come pretty far with language, I think, as far as humans. Although some deep misinterpretations come about. So
Have you tried that cat thing?
no, but I love the video. It's so great. There's like this British guy that's speaking for the cats. And, like your cat will meow and be like, pet me, bitch. I don't know.
Is it
Like,
real or is it a joke?
I don't know. I think you can actually buy one. I really do. Like, I think you can buy one for probably less than $100 because why not?
Well, because there was this thing a few years ago, like 5, 6, 7 years ago,
Yep.
with this guy. He put on some shoes and he was running on water, but that was a fake video, but people thought it was real.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
you're telling me that you don't think that this cat thing is real? Dang. Well, I guess Gonzo's shit out of luck. That's my cat, by the way.
Okay. So shall we move on? Yeah. So next we're going to talk about the limitations of language.
Well, that's a good one. I think there are a lot of limitations to language because people put limitations on language. And I mean grammar Nazis. Like, I recently watched a really cool TED Talks video about how. Oh, no. It was Adam Ruins Everything. Adam Ruins Grammar. That was really good. I think you were there, Garrison, when we were watching that one.
Yeah.
Um, People will ultimately always put limitations on language, especially those people that think that they know everything. Not you, Garrison. I'm not talking about you. Don't worry. Talking about past teachers, Sinclair. They seem to think that it's okay for people not to express themselves through language, even if it's not what they. I don't know. Read, read things, guys. Just go read things. Learn to read the written language. I think that's very important. I don't know. What about you, Garrison?
I think language is limited in terms of conveying certain ideas and concepts,
Sure.
and different languages, certain things can be lost in translation, which can lead to certain problems, unfortunately. But
Right, like
I don't.
sarcasm. Like if you
Right.
learn a
Yeah.
new language, and you try to go speak in another language in that country and you try to be sarcastic with something, people might end up being confused because they're not sure what you mean by it.
Right. Like certain like humor
Mm-hmm.
translates differently between countries and cultures and things like that.
That's very true.
But I don't really know if there's any way around that, the limitations that I can think of right now.
Well, I mean, I think the most important thing is to be open to other people, other identities, and other languages because, different dialects. I don't know. Like, okay, so my dad, he's Iranian, right? So he tells me this story, like all the time. And he talks about when he first came to America, like, I don't know, God, when he was 20. So he's like 60 now, so it's like almost 40 years ago. Um, and he talks about how he and his buddies were, they were just having a shit of a time, just kind of going around, being them, young and adventurous. And I guess he and his buddies went to like a certain flea market, right? And there's this little girl, and she had like a box full of puppies. So he goes up to the little girl and he picks out one of the dogs. He's like, "Oh, it's so cute, Oh, as best as he can in English, right?" So he like picks it up and he like looks it over and he's like, "Oh, this is such a cute little dog." And he like does this thing where he like takes the dog and he's like, "So, how do you cook it?" And I guess the little girl flipped out and started crying, and like he was totally joking.
Okay.
So like, I think the thing is like, well, it's who your audience is too, probably. But he was, he's probably like this foreign looking guy, like, there's perceptions to everything. So just try to understand that your audience may not always approve. So just be careful with your sarcasm and your comedy when you're speaking another language, because you don't know who your audience is. So.
That actually made me think of something. A few months ago, I was watching some video, and it was like an app or something. Maybe not an app, but those like megaphones.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it had this feature on it where when you speak into it, it translates it into that language.
Oh yeah. No, I've definitely seen those before.
Mm.
Like you can, or like earbuds or something that you can put in, and it'll like take whatever language you're listening to and transfer it to your language, so that you can pretty much understand anything.
Yeah. So I think that's the future, definitely.
Oh yeah. Like, have you ever seen or read the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Okay, well, in that book, there's like a little fish. I can't remember what the name of the fish is called. But like you're supposed to stick it in your ear in the movie, and apparently after that you can know any language. It like eats languages and then gives you languages. Like it poops out languages, so it gives you like I don't know. It's kind of like that, but it's not with a fish in your ear. So the earbud. Good book.
So kind of like Starfire from Teen Titans, how she just kisses someone and knows that language.
Okay, maybe I didn't know that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah. But I think a few decades, 100 or so years from now, we'll have something where we can read each other's minds voluntarily
I can agree with that one.
and speak that way.
Some weird telepathic thing
Right.
where it's like really just a microchip in the back of everyone's skull, and we're just like, yep, dude, bro, I understand you all the time now. It's kind of awkward.
So bad words. Bad words. What do you,
Profanity.
yeah. What do you think about that?
Always. We use them always. I don't know. I have a hard time going out in public sometimes because I know that I cuss a lot and I don't filter in front of children. And I know that parents would probably get really mad at me. Like, they get mad at me at work. And, like, there's a bunch of kids that come in at work. And, like, I think a few weeks ago I was talking to one of my buddies about porn. And they got really mad at me because I kept calling it anime porn and not hentai. But, I just kept saying anime porn the entire time. And they were like, dude, there's, like, children around. Call it hentai. Fine, alright, dude, okay, I'll call it hentai. Because kids don't know what that is.
Right. But I think we give power to certain words, and words only have power when we give them power. So really, people are making such a big deal about something that's not a big deal.
I mean, that's a good point too, because I was talking to some people recently, why is it okay for people to call men a dick when it's not okay to call a woman a cunt? Because it's basically the same idea, just the genital. You are just a genital. You are nothing else. So I feel like it is as much power as you give it. If somebody called me a cunt, I probably would have been offended 3 years ago. But today I'd be like, yeah, you know what? Probably am. So, I don't know. Okay, this also brings up another good question. How do you feel about the N-word?
Doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother you? I'm glad. I'm not going to say it because it's offensive.
Please, say it.
No, I'm not going to say it. No. Okay, well, I'm not going to say it because it's offensive.
Come on, cunt.
Hey! Whoa! Okay, there. Well, you're a dick, so it's okay.
I'll take it.
Okay.
So, the origins of certain bad words come from medieval England. The upper class Saxons who used Latin, and the lower class Normans who used a Germanic dialect. So really, bad words is sort of a class thing, which also leads back to that episode of Adam Ruins Everything, of how bad words are often associated with the lower class.
Yeah, that kind of sucks because oftentimes, once a lower class person uses an upper class word, it seems to, shift in meaning.
Right. It lowers that word's value or something.
Right. Thank you, Adam Ruins Everything. I think he really explains it really well. I mean, what's another good word? Ratchet. That word always pissed me off, and for some reason, I think I know why now, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's another word entirely, really, because it's wretched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't understand because it's ratchet is supposed to mean somebody that's I don't know, disheveled or kind of gross. I don't know. Like a hillbilly, probably. I don't know. It's probably kind of offensive, but still. To me, a ratchet is a tool. You use a ratchet.
Yeah.
So, is that what that means? I don't know.
Yeah, ratchet is that, but wretched is the what you were explaining.
Right. Kind of gross and...
Yeah, right.
Person's just wretched.
Yeah.
Screw that person.
So, what the people are really calling someone is a building tool.
Yes. So stop using ratchet. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, right. So, you've probably noticed on some of the previous podcasts, my stutter. So for those of you who don't know, because this, stuttering has quite a few misconceptions. It's pretty rare. No one really knows. But essentially, for those who grew up with it or it spontaneously came later in life, it's a lack of blood flow in the Broca's area, which is on the left hemisphere frontal lobe. But it can also be an emotional uh, trigger that sparks your stammer. So
Right, because I've stuttered when I've been like emotionally distraught before.
right.
I guess I'm, you know, kind of pathetic when I'm crying and stuttering, but there's this really awesome guy that I follow on Facebook. His name is Drew Lynch, and he's got like an extreme stutter. Like, I mean, I know that you have got a stutter, Garrison, but his is like he can't not talk with a stutter. Like, you can speak fluently and not stutter on most of your words, it seems like, but his is like always. So, I gotta show you his videos here after this podcast, but it's pretty good.
And there's also an area near the Broca's called the Renica's area, which essentially puts your sentences together before you actually say them. But then the Broca's actually produces the sound and makes it come out or not come out, oftentimes or sometimes. So you can, for me, I know certain words that I struggle with and try to come up with words around that. That's why I think that it's pretty helpful to have a pretty decent vocabulary if you stutter. But I know that doesn't really help for everyone. But
I mean, it's pretty nice that you added like a scientific reasoning behind that, because like I didn't even know. Like, I thought a lot of it was emotional. You know, like a lot of it can come from emotions, and I don't know. For me, it's like I look at you and I see that you're left-handed, so it's like I know that a lot of left-handed people, it's been known that like the emotional side of their brain is more intact, or like, you know, like they use more of the right side of the brain, which is more emotional because your right side controls your left side. So that for me kind of like explained a little bit for me. But when you talk about like the Broca's area of the brain, like that's a huge portion. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about. Like, have you ever tried writing with your right hand, seeing maybe if something came about that?
no, but I'm actually pretty decent with writing with my right hand, so
Oh, okay.
maybe I'll try that.
You're just ambidextrous.
Yeah.
Better than all of us.
Yeah. I didn't write this down in my notes, but those tick things where people
Like
stay.
Tourette's?
Yeah, Tourette's.
Yeah.
Where people
Yes.
right.
Dick sucking balls. Okay. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm sorry.
Do you think that's real, or do you think that people are just kind of making stuff up?
No, I really do think it's real. I think people have a seriously hard time controlling some things like that. Like, I mean, I have a hard time sometimes speaking, like, especially when, like, I'm in a certain mode or something, and then, like, I'm really focused. If somebody comes at me with, like, a super sudden, like, I don't know, like, question, or, like, they try to pull me out of it, like, I have a hard time, like, coming out of that. So, like, eventually, like, I don't know, like, I seem probably pretty slow, like, when I'm answering questions sometimes, because, like, my focus is so distinct and so clear that it's hard for me to pull out. So, like, I can only imagine how these people feel when they've got this extreme, like, I don't know, like, sensation or tick. Like, they literally cannot control it. Just like you probably can't control your stutter. Like, no matter how hard you try, you probably do. But, I don't know, maybe you should just, like, I don't know, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, enforce it. I don't know.
Enforce?
Yeah, enforce your stutter. Like
force it?
Yeah.
Like,
No, not force it, but like encourage it. Like encourage your own self encourage. Self
I don't get it. I don't understand.
Embrace yourself. Embrace your stutter. That's what I'm thinking of. It's language. Sarah has a hard time thinking
Mm,
of words.
okay, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
But why is it always bad words? Now, I know there are certain ones where you just like do body ticks or you say nonsensical or make nonsensical sounds, but
Right.
for the ones that have verbal words for ticks, why is it often bad words?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe it's got something else to do with the Broca's area of the brain, because yeah, why is it always bad words?
I don't know.
Maybe it's because they're strong and abrupt, like pussy. I don't know, like ass. I don't. Maybe it's just it's hard for them to control it.
Is it something dealing with the controversial nature of those words?
Maybe.
Because I was watching this uh, documentary about it, and it featured. We'll continue this on part two of the theory of language. Thanks. Welcome back to part two of the theory of language with Garrison and Sarah.
Hello.
So we left off talking about what were we talking about?
You're talking about like
Tourette's, I think.
Tourette's, yeah.
All right. Right. So there's this school or a camp where kids work through their tics.
I wonder, like, what kind of classes and stuff they have to take. Like, do they, like, all, like, go and camp out together? Or is it, like, do they go home at the end of the day? Like, I think that'd be really cool to go see. Like, all these little kids kind of going
What
around.
call me nigger and stuff? No thanks.
What? No.
But
Well, okay, yeah, they probably would. On accident. On accident,
it's
though. Not on purpose.
it's a night camp. Yeah, it's a night camp where you stay at night, stay a few days, do activities, like fun stuff like kayaking and things like that.
Okay.
But yes, so when I was watching that documentary, there was this one girl who would say the worst things at the worst times, like saying bomb in an airport
Oh my god.
and then saying nigger right in front of black people. It was terrible.
Oh my god. Talk about having to explain a bad situation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. Like these kids probably go like to this special camp so they can like be themselves, because I'm sure like having like a speech impediment like that, some sort of like speech, difference can have a lot of anxiety. Like I feel like that would be really anxious to have that.
Yeah. But there was this one kid that had a very specific tick.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was almost personal because one of the counselors there, her name was Jen,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the person that had the ticks said, "Jen gives head. Jen gives head. Jen gives head."
Oh my
Yeah, it was
god.
really specific. So that's kind of why I'm kind of on the fence of its legitimacy.
Oh, I see, I
Yeah,
see. I don't know. I feel like if I tried to fake it though, like I wouldn't be able to hold myself. Like I
you
would
would
just,
laugh.
yeah, I would laugh too hard. So these kids must have a serious passion for it. I know. No, that's so wrong. No, they don't have a passion for it. They can't control
Yeah,
it.
maybe. So, were there any other things that you wanted to bring up about language?
Language. Well, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of language that I don't know, kind of goes unseen. I mean, the fact that we speak at all is kind of awesome. So, if we didn't speak, we'd have a hard time, or we'd come up with like sign language.
Mm.
I think. Have you ever like seen people like perform sign language that are like having a serious argument because they go insane. Like they'll like do some crazy body movements. Like their hands are moving so fast that you wouldn't be able to keep up.
Hmm.
Like they have some serious arguments. Like and that's a kind of the cool difference between people who are deaf and people who aren't deaf, because they take things, I think, pretty seriously when somebody like does something to them, because it, they see things so differently. They can't verbalize their emotions. They literally have to like use their body language to keep their emotions going. So I think it's all about how that kind of goes. So, I kind of wish I knew sign language so that I could tell people off in a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah. Sinclair has sign language classes, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, actually, I think it'd be pretty cool to learn sign language, because then, like, oh, also, it would come in handy in a really tight situation. Like say we come across like a situation where, I don't know, like say you're in trouble and you're like, dude, get me out, and I'd be like, all right, snapping. I don't know, just
Hmm.
doing something with my
I
hands.
think you can just use your mouth for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Garrison,
It
let's go.
seems. Where are we going?
Oh, I was gonna save you
Oh.
because you were in a tight situation in between a rock and a hard place.
But when would you like use it? I mean,
Like, okay, so like
you can.
say you were like on a date, right? Or
Mhm.
say we went to a bar and like I was trying to be your wingman, right? And like you somehow got in between two really like gross chicks, and you were like stuck there though because they wouldn't leave you. They kept making you drink or something, and you were like, dude, I can't get out of this. So you don't have your phone on you, and then you're like, all right, so how do I get out of this? Sarah's my wingman. She set me up with some gross chicks. And then all of a sudden you do some weird like hand movements, like I don't know, like touch your nose to your face and be like, yeah. I don't know, maybe that's more of like a secret handshake thing. But and then I'm all like, oh, got you. And then I'm like, hey chicks, let's go to the bathroom. And then you make a run for it.
That's really specific.
It is. But, situation wise, hypothetical, I think that's how that would go.
Hmm.
This is why language is important, in order to save people, right?
All right. All right.
Survival.
So how far behind or advanced would we be if we didn't have language?
Hmm. So you're just talking about verbal language, right?
Right.
Hmm. I feel like we'd probably be more advanced.
Explain.
Well, if we didn't have verbal language, say we were able to like read each other's minds, right? Do you think maybe we would talk in binary? Like how those AIs that recently came about, right? They came up with their own language. That's why they were turned off. Um, Wonder if we would come up with like our own binary language.
Mm,
Things would just be all mathematical.
nah.
No?
Nah.
No? Okay. All right. I mean, I guess there's no profanity in binary, so. I mean, unless there is, and we just don't know it yet. Oh, God.
Well, is that it?
Is
I
that the
think that's it.
future of language?
Future of language. Hmm. I think the future of language uh, will be pretty much unrecognizable.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Uh,
Do you think they'll look back at us and be like, bleep, bleep, bloop, blop, bleep, 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 bloop? You know?
Now, how far in the future are we talking?
I'm thinking like 1,000 years ahead.
1,000
Mm-hmm.
years. Sure, a- anything goes at that point. I can't even imagine what language will be by then.
Right. You know, I think it's gonna be all bleeps and bloops.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else, Garrison?
Well, yeah. I don't think so. That's it. Thanks for tuning into The Theory of Language. I'm your host, Sarah. Oh, wait, what? I'm your host.
Hi, Sarah. I'm Garrison.
Perfect. Perfect. See ya.
Bye bye.